Once upon a time, in a small village, there lived a girl named Amanda. She had never known the warmth of a mother's love. She lost her parents at a young age and was left in the care of her stepmother, Mrs. Elizabeth. Elizabeth was a woman of beauty, but with a heart as cold as ice. She had twin daughters, Chizaram and Chidima, whom she adored, showering them with love, beautiful dresses, and the best meals. But Amanda, she was treated like a mere servant in the house. From dawn till dusk, Amanda worked tirelessly. She cooked, cleaned, washed clothes, and fetched water, while her stepsisters lived like princesses. If Amanda ever slowed down, Elizabeth's voice would ring through the house. "Amanda, have you finished scrubbing the floor?" "No, Ma," Amanda would answer timidly. "Lazy girl, do fast. No food for you until you are done." Amanda's only solace was her dreams. She dreamt of escaping this life, of finding love and happiness, of being free. But reality always reminded her that she was alone. Chizaram and Chidima would only gist, laugh, and play all day. Their voices echoed through the compound, full of excitement and carelessness. Amanda, on the other hand, would rise before the sun, dragging her tired body to the stream. After fetching water, she would go to the bush to gather firewood. Her feet often bruised from walking barefoot, she swept the compound, washed the dishes, cleaned the rooms, and prepared meals, all alone. Not once did anyone offer to help her. To them, she was not a sister, but a servant, someone to use and discard. When food was prepared, Elizabeth would serve her daughters the best portions, while Amanda was left with scraps. Still, Amanda ate in silence, not because she enjoyed it, but because complaining would only earn her more punishment. She would sit quietly at a corner of the kitchen, eat her small portion, and go back to work, without grumbling. At night, while the twins lay comfortably in their shared room, laughing and whispering about their day, Amanda lay on a thin mat inside the kitchen, using a folded rag as a pillow. Sometimes she cried, wondering if her real mother could see her from heaven. But despite everything, Amanda never lost her kindness. She still greeted everyone with respect. Her spirit remained gentle and strong. Elizabeth's jealousy burned deep. Everywhere she went, people talked about Amanda. "That girl is strong. She does all the work without complaining. Despite all she goes through, she is still respectful and hard-working. God will bless her one day." Mrs. Elizabeth fumed with anger. "Why must people admire this poor orphan instead of my two beautiful daughters? All they talked about was Amanda. I know what to do. I must get rid of Amanda," she muttered to herself, an evil glint in her eyes. The next day, Mrs. Elizabeth prepared a delicious meal with chicken. She carefully sprinkled poison into the food, making sure to mix it well. A wicked smile curled on her lips as she carried the plate to Amanda. "Take, my child," she said sweetly, something she had never done before. "You have been working since morning. Eat because you deserve it." Amanda's eyes filled with confusion. This sudden kindness from her stepmother was unusual. Why was she being given such a special meal when she was always treated like a slave? Still, she accepted the plate and lowered her gaze. Mrs. Elizabeth, eager for her evil plan to succeed, immediately left the house, pretending to be rushing somewhere. She wanted to be far away when the poison took effect, so that by the time she returned, Amanda would be dead. Amanda stared at the steaming plate of food in her hands. It smelled delicious, fluffy rice with rich, thick stew and a large piece of chicken resting on top. It was unlike anything she had ever been given before. Her heart pounded. Why is she suddenly kind to me? She had never given me such a meal before, but today she was smiling. Something was wrong. Her eyes fixed on the food. Should I eat it? But something deep inside told her to wait. Just then, Chizaram and Chidima returned from where they had gone. Their eyes widened in surprise when they saw Amanda holding a plate of delicious food. "Oh my God, who gave this poor girl such a special meal?" Chizaram exclaimed, eyeing the plate greedily. Without waiting for an answer, she snatched the food from Amanda's hands. "This kind of food is not meant for a worthless orphan like you," she sneered and began to eat the food. Chizaram chewed and swallowed, but within seconds her face twisted in pain. She clutched her stomach and let out a piercing scream. "My stomach! My stomach!" she cried, doubling over in agony. Chidima rushed to her side, panic in her eyes. "What is it? Talk to me," she pleaded. But Chizaram couldn't answer. Her body trembled violently, and suddenly blood spilled from her mouth as she began to vomit uncontrollably. Amanda stood frozen in shock, her breath caught in her throat. She knew immediately the food was poisoned. Chidima screamed as she watched her twin sister collapse to the ground, her body going still. Chizaram was dead. Horror and disbelief gripped their faces as they stared at her lifeless body. None of them could believe what had just happened. When their mother returned from where she had claimed to have gone, expecting to find Amanda's lifeless body, but to her greatest surprise it was her own daughter, Chizaram, who lay dead on the floor. She let out a loud, heart-wrenching scream and rushed to her side. "Wake up! Chizaram, wake up!" she cried, but her daughter's body remained still. Tears streamed down her face as she wailed uncontrollably. "No, this can't be happening. My daughter!" Chidima, still in shock, sobbed as she explained what had happened. "Mother, Chizaram took the food from Amanda and ate it, and then she just fell and died." Her mother grief quickly turned into rage. She turned sharply toward Amanda, her eyes burning with hatred. You are a witch. You have brought nothing but misfortune into my life," she screamed. Amanda trembled in fear. "I didn't do anything, Mother, I swear," she pleaded, but Elizabeth refused to listen. From that day forward, her hatred for Amanda grew even worse. She blamed her entirely for Chizaram's death, even though it was her own poisoned food that had caused it. To make Amanda suffer even more, she doubled her punishments. "From today, you will no longer fetch water or firewood in the morning or evening," she declared cruelly. "You will only fetch them under the hot afternoon sun," she continued. "There will be no more food for you in this house. If you want to eat, find your own way." Amanda's heart sank. The little food she used to get, though it was always leftovers, was now taken away from her completely. Hunger gnawed at her stomach and exhaustion weighed down her fragile body. One night, as she lay on her thin mat, her stomach growling and her body aching from the day's hard labor, she thought to herself, "Should I run away? But I don't know where to go. I would rather stay here and die." Tears rolled down her cheeks as she realized she had nowhere else to go. Her suffering had truly begun. As Amanda's suffering grew worse, she had no choice but to find a way to survive. Since there was no food for her at home, she began to feed on fruits. Whenever she went to fetch firewood, she would search for fruit trees, pluck them, and eat. It was the only way she could keep herself from starving. One hot afternoon, as she was returning from the bush, with a heavy bunch of firewood balanced on her head, a car suddenly stopped beside her. A well-dressed young man rolled down the window and called out to her. "Hello, fine girl," he said with a warm smile. Amanda stopped and greeted him politely. "Good afternoon, sir." The young man studied her for a moment. He noticed how tired and worn out she looked, sweat dripping down her face as she struggled under the weight of the firewood. "What is your name?" he asked. "And why are you carrying firewood under the hot sun? Put your firewood in my car trunk and come into the car. I will give you a ride." Amanda hesitated, then shook her head. "Thank you, sir, for your kindness. My name is Amanda, but I cannot come into your car. You are a stranger." Without waiting for his response, she adjusted the firewood on her head and walked away. The young man, intrigued by her response and moved by her condition, decided to follow her without her knowledge. He drove slowly behind her, watching as she entered a small compound. When he reached her home, he saw Elizabeth. "Good afternoon, Ma," the young man greeted respectfully. "My name is Stephen, and I am here to see your daughter, Amanda." Elizabeth studied the young man's appearance carefully. He was well-dressed, neat, and drove a clean and expensive-looking car. Immediately, she assumed he must be a rich man from the city. "Are you from the city?" she asked, trying to confirm her thoughts. "Yes, Ma," Stephen replied politely. "I came back from the city to look for a wife, and I believe I have found one in your house. Her name is Amanda." Elizabeth's face darkened instantly. She frowned in displeasure. "Listen, my son. Amanda is not a good girl. She will not make a good wife. She is my daughter, and I know her very well. She pretends a lot. She has slept with all the men in this village. She also has a sickness, one I have been treating for years, but the sickness refuses to leave her body." Stephen's face remained unreadable, but inside he was shocked. Elizabeth continued. "But I have another daughter, Chidima. She is beautiful, well-mannered, and will make a good wife. You can marry her and have peace of mind." Stephen hesitated for a moment before nodding. "All right. Can I see Chidima?" Elizabeth's face lit up with excitement. She quickly called for Chidima, and within moments she came out. Indeed, Chidima was beautiful. Her skin glowed, her clothes were neat, and she carried herself with confidence. Stephen looked at her, admiring her beauty. "Oh, I will marry her," he finally declared. Elizabeth beamed with joy. "When are you coming with your people?" she asked eagerly. "In 4 days," Stephen replied. "I will return with my people to marry her." As soon as Stephen left, Chidima and her mother rejoiced. They danced around the house, laughing in excitement. "Finally, my daughter will marry a rich man from the city," Elizabeth exclaimed, already dreaming of the wealth that would soon come into her family. Meanwhile, Amanda sat in a corner watching silently as her stepmother convinced her suitor to marry her stepsister. Her heart ached, but she said nothing. After 4 days, Stephen returned with his people for the wedding. The entire village gathered to witness the occasion, and Elizabeth beamed with pride as her daughter, Chidima, was married to a wealthy man from the city. Amanda stood in the background, watching silently as the ceremony took place. She felt a mix of emotions and happiness for her sister, but also sadness at how she had been treated. When the time came for Chidima to leave with her husband, she carried her bags and walked towards Stephen's car. At that moment, Amanda rushed forward, her heart full of goodwill. "Chidima, my sister," Amanda said softly, "I wish you a happy married life. May you be fruitful in your home." But instead of gratitude, Chidima turned to her with a look of pure disgust. "Get out of my sight, you poor orphan," she spat. "Who told you I need your wishes? Take your miserable blessings and keep them for yourself." Amanda's heart sank at her sister's words. But before she could say anything, Elizabeth added cruelly, "Amanda, don't worry. Your own husband will come, but he must be a wretched and dying man." Laughter erupted from both mother and daughter as they mocked Amanda. Chidima tossed her hair proudly, climbed into the car, and drove away with her husband, leaving Amanda standing alone, humiliated and heartbroken. As Chidima arrived in the city with her husband, she was filled with excitement. She imagined herself living in a grand mansion, surrounded by luxury. But her excitement quickly turned to confusion when Stephen drove into a poor-looking compound with old, worn-out buildings facing each other. She looked around in disbelief. The area was noisy, with children running around and neighbors sitting outside, chatting loudly. "Honey, do you want to greet someone here?" she asked hesitantly, hoping this wasn't their destination. Stephen shook his head. "No, my dear, this is where I live," he said casually. I have a lot of neighbors in this compound, and yes, it can be noisy, but don't worry. You will get used to it." Chidima's eyes widened in shock. "Wait, wait. You mean you live in a public house? Face me, I face you?" she asked, unable to believe her ears. "Yes," Stephen replied simply as he parked the car and stepped out. "Follow me, let's go inside." Chidima, still stunned, followed him quietly. Inside, the reality hit her harder. Stephen was managing a single room in a crowded compound. A small room with no chair, no table, and no bed. Only dirty clothes hanging on the wall. "Excuse me?" she said, struggling to process everything. "You stay in one room?" "Yes, my wife," Stephen said with a calm smile. Then he added, "I am a poor man, Chidima. I don't have money, the way you and your mother thought. I work at the motor park as a tout." Chidima gasped, her hands flying to her mouth. "The car and the fine clothes I wore in the village," he continued, "they are not mine. I borrowed them from a friend just to look like a rich man." Silence filled the room. Chidima's heart pounded. "Where did you get the money for the wedding?" Chidima asked, her voice trembling with both shock and disappointment. Stephen smiled casually, as if everything was normal. "Oh, the wedding," he echoed. "I sold all my personal properties, my television, my generator, even my mattress, and I also borrowed some money from friends." Chidima's jaw dropped. She could hardly believe what she was hearing. "But don't worry," Stephen continued confidently. "I will replace everything I sold. You see, I am the chairman of all the touts at the motor park. I make money every day." Chidima stared at him in disbelief. This wasn't the life she imagined. No mansion, no riches. Just a small room in a noisy compound, and a husband who worked as a motor park tout. The fantasy had shattered, and reality was sinking in fast. This wasn't the marriage she or her mother had planned. The next day, Stephen returned the borrowed car and the fine clothes he had used to deceive Chidima's family. He dressed in his usual rugged clothes and headed to the motor park, where he worked as the chairman of the touts. There, he spent the entire day shouting, arguing, and fighting over bus fares and space with other workers. By evening, his voice was hoarse and his body was tired. Instead of returning home, he went to a nearby local bar. He drank heavily, glass after glass, until he could barely stand. Drunk and staggering, he made his way back home late at night, reeking of alcohol. As soon as he entered the room, Chidima stood up and began shouting. "Look at the time you're coming back home, you hopeless man," she yelled in frustration. Stephen, in his drunken state, did not take her words lightly. Without warning, he raised his hand and beat her mercilessly. Chidima cried bitterly, her body aching with pain and regret. Sitting in a corner of the small room, she sobbed uncontrollably. "What will I do now?" she thought, her heart filled with sorrow. "This is not the type of marriage I wished for myself. Should I go back to my mother's house?" she asked herself. But the thought of facing Amanda, who had wished her well, filled her with shame. "No, Amanda will laugh at me. I will remain here and carry my cross." Wiping her tears, she whispered in anger, "I hate my mother for putting me in this kind of marriage." Regret had taken the place of pride, and reality was now her painful companion. Meanwhile, back in the village, whispers had spread like wildfire. Everyone was talking about how Elizabeth gave Chidima to the man who originally came to marry Amanda. Little did they know the man they all believed to be a rich man was nothing more than a poor, struggling tout. Some villagers began to mock Elizabeth behind her back, while others pitied Amanda, admiring her silent strength. One hot afternoon, Amanda went to the bush to pluck mangoes from a tree she hadn't eaten since the day before. As she reached up, struggling to pluck some mangoes, she noticed another young man nearby doing the same. He climbed the tree skillfully and plucked a bunch of mangoes. When he came down, he noticed Amanda still trying to pluck some mangoes. He smiled warmly. "I see you have been here trying to pluck mangoes. Take these ones and eat," he said, handing some mangoes to Amanda. "We can share. I will eat the rest." Amanda accepted them with gratitude in her eyes. "Thank you so much. It's like you know I have not eaten since yesterday." "Same with me," the young man said. "I have been hungry too. I usually move around the village looking for fruit trees like this. Sometimes I work on people's farmlands to earn a little something." Amanda's eyes lit up with a spark of hope. "Oh, can I join you to work on farms? Please, I am suffering. I need something, anything. My stepmother stopped giving me food. I don't know how else to survive." The young man looked at her with sincerity. "I will allow you to work with me, on one condition." Amanda was desperate. "Whatever condition it is, I will do it. I just need help." He took a breath and said gently, "Can you be my wife, so that we can build our future together?" Amanda was stunned but thoughtful. Her eyes searched his face for any sign of a joke, but he was serious. "Be your wife?" she repeated softly. Then, with a hopeful smile, she added, "If being your wife will take me away from my stepmother, then yes, I will be your wife. I rather suffer and have peace of mind than suffering without peace of mind." The young man nodded. "Then I will come tomorrow to see your stepmother. If she agrees to give you to me as my wife, I will return with my people." The next morning, as the sun rose over the quiet village, the young man made his way to Amanda's house with determined steps. His clothes were worn and dusty, his slippers nearly falling apart, but his heart was full of hope. On his arrival, he met Elizabeth. "Good morning, Ma," he greeted respectfully. "My name is Christopher. I am here to seek Amanda's hand in marriage." Elizabeth looked up slowly, eyeing him from head to toe. His tattered shirt, dusty feet, told her everything she needed to know. He was poor. A slow, satisfied smile spread across her face. "This is the kind of man Amanda deserves," she thought bitterly. "Wretched and hopeless." "You are welcome," she said with a fake warmth in her voice. "What do you do for a living?" "I don't have anything big I am doing," Christopher replied honestly. "But I work on people's farmlands. I earn a little money to take care of myself. Please, Ma, don't say no because I am poor." Elizabeth chuckled. "Say no? Why would I say no? You have my full consent. You can marry Amanda. In fact, I have always wanted her to marry a poor, wretched man like you. At least now she will know what true suffering is." Christopher did not react to her insult. Instead, he smiled politely. "Thank you, Ma. I will come back with my people for the marriage rites." Elizabeth waved him off, satisfied that Amanda was finally going to marry someone below her expectations. After 1 week, Christopher returned to the village with his people. The marriage between him and Amanda was simple, a small gathering, with only a few villagers in attendance. There were no drums or dancing, no colorful canopies or grand feasts, just quiet smiles and humble blessings. Elizabeth watched with a twisted sense of satisfaction. She was not happy that Amanda was getting married. She was only happy that Amanda was marrying a man she believed to be wretched and worthless. In her heart, she rejoiced in what she thought was Amanda's downfall. When everything was over, Christopher and Amanda left the village. Amanda sat quietly beside her new husband, unsure of what the future held. She braced herself, expecting to arrive at a poor mud hut in a quiet corner of some village. But to her greatest surprise, the car drove into a large, elegant compound. The gates opened, revealing a mansion, surrounded by a well-kept garden and tall trees. Servants stood by, waiting to welcome them. Amanda's eyes widened in shock. "What is going on here?" she asked, her voice shaking. Christopher stepped out of the car and turned to her with a warm smile. "Welcome home, to where you truly belong, my dear, beautiful wife." Amanda could barely move. "Where are we?" she asked again, still confused. "You are in your house," Christopher replied. "Let's go inside. I will explain everything." They entered the mansion, and Amanda gasped at the luxury. The living room was richly furnished. She sat down slowly, still in disbelief. Christopher took her hands gently and began to speak. "I heard your story, Amanda. I heard how your stepmother gave her own daughter to the man who came for you just because she thought he was rich. I heard how you suffered, how strong you were, despite everything. That day at the mango tree was not the first day I saw you. I had seen you many times before. Your beauty and strength captured my heart." He paused and looked into her eyes. "I decided to pretend, to look poor, to test your heart, and see the truth about the people around you. I knew your stepmother would never give you to me if she knew my value." Tears filled Amanda's eyes. She wept softly. "Thank you," she whispered. "Thank you for loving me, for everything." Christopher reached out and wiped her tears. "You are welcome, my love," he said gently. "But now, no more crying. You are safe. You are home." And for the first time in her life, Amanda felt truly loved, valued, and at peace. One day, Amanda decided it was time to visit her stepmother. She wanted Elizabeth to see the truth, that the man she had thought was a poor, wretched nobody was a billionaire. As Amanda and Christopher arrived at the old house, Elizabeth barely recognized them. She looked at them in confusion until Amanda spoke. "I am Amanda. I know you don't recognize us, but it is me and my husband." Elizabeth's eyes widened in shock. She looked from Amanda to Christopher, realizing the same man she had mocked and insulted was now standing before her, well-dressed and looking wealthier than she had ever imagined. "You," she gasped. "You mean your husband is a rich man?" Christopher only smiled, watching Amanda. Elizabeth quickly dropped to her knees. "Please, Amanda, find a place in your heart to forgive me. I am sorry for everything I did to you. I was blinded by greed, and I treated you terribly." But Amanda simply chuckled. "I am not here to forgive you. I came to show you my new life, the life you tried to keep from me." She turned to her husband. "Let's go. We have nothing more to say here." Just as they turned to leave, two policemen walked in. "Excuse me, are you Elizabeth, Chidima's mother?" one of the officers asked. "Yes, I am," she replied nervously. "Your daughter, Chidima, has been arrested for the murder of her husband." Elizabeth screamed, staggering backward. "Oh my God! Arrested? Where is she now? Take me to her." Amanda and Christopher exchanged surprised glances. Without another word, they got into their car and left, while Elizabeth hurried off with the policeman. When she arrived at the police station in the city, she was led to a holding cell. Her heart broke when she saw Chidima sitting on the cold floor, bruised and battered from police beatings. "My daughter," she cried, "how did this happen? Did you really kill your husband?" Chidima slowly lifted her head, her swollen face filled with hatred and pain. "Yes, I did," she spat, her voice filled with rage. "And it is all your fault." Elizabeth's hands trembled. "No, don't say that, my child." Chidima let out a bitter laugh. "That man came to marry Amanda, but you pushed me to him thinking he was rich. Instead, he was a poor and a hopeless man. He beat me every day. He used me as his punching bag. One day, when he was hitting me, I grabbed a chair and struck him on the head. He fell down and died. And now, here I am because of you." Tears rolled down Elizabeth's cheeks. "My daughter, I am so sorry." "Get out of here, mother," Chidima screamed. "I hate you for ruining my life. Out of carelessness, you killed my twin sister and destroyed my life just like you tried to kill and destroy Amanda. Leave me alone." Elizabeth stepped back, her whole world crumbling around her. She had lost everything. Her wickedness had taken everything from her, the 2 daughters she loved, the respect of the village, and even her own peace. And in the end, Amanda, the orphan she despised, was the one who truly won. Indeed, who laugh last, laugh best.